Hi, folks. I hope you're enjoying this summit. My name is Saldi Suribin. My pronoun is he, him, his. Currently the Senior Management Analyst here at Office of LGBT Affairs. I have the privilege to introduce Kanyon. Kanyon is a proud Mutsun Ohlone Two-Spirit artist, activist, and cultural representative. As a tribal chairperson of the Indian Kanyon Nation and the founder of Two-Spirit Society of Indian Kanyon, she is a fierce advocate for indigenous and LGBTQ plus rights, leading efforts in cultural preservation, decolonization, and climate resilience while also educating through cultural competency trainings and workshops, including the accredited Queering Psychedelic curriculum. With a passion for blending traditional knowledge with modern challenges, Kanyon's work uplifts both the LGBTQ plus and indigenous communities, inspiring intersectional advocacy and allyship. Without further ado, welcome back, Kanyon.
It's gone. Fine. Great. I'm going to move a tiny bit around here because I'm recognizing we've been sitting for a little minute. I was going to start with poem. I'm going to shift and allow that to be next. But for those of you who recognize that we are just mere animals and we are bodies, beings who breathe and move, I have a small, adjustable, moving, and language revitalization opportunity for you to join me. So for those of you who want more movement, feel free to stand up. For those of you who want to remain in position and you have some mobility of your frontal limbs, because, 4 legs, you can move those. But for those of you who do want a little bit of movement, a tiny little wiggle room would be perfect right now. And this is an actual little workshop practice that I learned from a dancing troupe, a theater production. And so I invite you to do sounds and movement with me, and it's going to make sense in the end. So can we start with making a ma? And you're welcome to move your feet with those too. I'm trying to say, like, these gestures can be moved with arms and legs. So ma. Okay. So we have ma. And then let me see here. I'm trying to think all bodies, all beings, as much as we can be as inclusive. Pide. So, ma, pide, tak. All right. So it's pide, tak. Was. All right. So with those arms, ama, pide, tak, awas. Ama, pide, tak, awas, as you learned from the beginning of the conversation, or those of you who might have walked in a little later, ama in the Mutsun language is people. You might have heard of the Ama Mutsun tribe, and they have branded that identity. So you know what's kind of funny? If I passed physically from this plane of existence, and I wanted to talk to my ancestors, I would introduce myself as Amma Mutsun. But today in front of you, I can't quite say I am Amma Mutsun because that is a branded tribal identity. Kind of interesting, right? So I identify as Mutsun Ohlone, Two-Spirit, Two-Face of Indian Kanyon Nation, and Indian Kanyon is about 55-ish, 60 miles south of here, and that is my ancestral homeland. And I recognize my privilege from coming from that territory to here. So I thank you for moving your body with me. Thank you for the wiggles. You are more than welcome to get comfortable, and or you want to stretch, you want to sit in the hallway. I'm not, as long as someone's not trying to come behind you. We're talking about accessibility. You are welcome to keep wiggling and moving, or keep yourself in a different position, because I know how I feel when I'm sitting in these chairs. I might come to a chair and be like, you're allowing me to sit differently? I really appreciate that. My back hurts. So, just wanted to invite that freedom in this space since we're talking about that. So, I recognize my privilege being raised on the land of my ancestors. where my ancestors' ancestors' ancestors have always been. And with that privilege does come responsibility. Being raised on the land of my ancestors, knowing where my grandmothers have come from, and my responsibility to my community, to being a representative of my tribe, of my family, and of truth in history. And so, when talking about access, talking about equity and accessibility, I wanted to offer a small celebration and encourage anyone who does get a chance, if you visit Yelamu, aka San Francisco, in the Ramaytush Ohlone territory, if you get a chance to witness the Exploratorium, up on the second level is the observatory. And there's a small display that talks about the history beneath, it's buried history, possibly, beneath the surface. And there was an individual who got a grant, who advocated for indigenous consultants to be fully part of the whole process. And my relatives, Greg Castro and Jonathan Cordero of the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone People, the first tribal community of Yelamu in San Francisco, were very helpful in offering consultation and guidance, which was very wordy. So archaeological references, statements of cultural resource management, and they're like, hey, you're an artist. Can you bring some artistic energy here? And I was intimidated. One, I'm getting quick access, native privilege, just immediately slingshot to the front. And being an artist, I'm just quickly brought into that circle. And I couldn't kick out artistic drawing or painting or graphic elements because I haven't been as creative lately. I am a graphic artist. I am a artist of fine arts and indigenous craft. So I just haven't had that energy. So the best thing I could do was a poem. And I'm really blessed to have this poem featured there at the Exploratorium. And it's a little heavy from my perspective as an indigenous person in the Bay. So I wanted to share it with you for if you did or didn't have a chance to go to the Exploratorium. I want to bring my voice here into this space saying, I'm a privileged Native who had access to a space that I never thought I would ever be as cool to present in such a space. And also offering a perspective that is not always shown or shared in these kind of spaces. So this poem is called Shell Mounds of the Bay. From an indigenous heart of the layers of truth we see, shell mixed with midden. Could this just be simple refuse? Just get rid of them? No. So many times this happens again and again, outside colonial minds, dismissing, interpreting, projecting, assuming. Greedy, destructive fingertips, scratching, and noses excited for new finds. Heavy is my heart to see mere acknowledgments like Shellmound Street or Ohlone Way, with one-sided narratives such as mission curriculum, shared widely through our public education system. So painfully sad, looking across the landscape, so drastically impacted. Molded by convenience, TM, and entitlement, copyright. I dream of a time when the community makes accountable decisions to include and encompass all community members, recognizing how our actions and decisions not only impact our environment, but our community, and in the short term, the next 7 generations. I feel as though I walk in 2 worlds, connected to the land, dreaming, seeing it as it is, and prayers of as it was, with dreams of what can be, honoring the past to shape the future. Ceremony, songs, and dance should always happen on sacred land. We are on stolen land. The shell mounds are still here, different, desecrated, though not thoroughly disappeared. 425 plus shell mounds. Now the remnants show signs of minuscule interpretation to convey the brevity, painfully limited, insulting, appropriating the sacred while whitewashing to the consumer palate. A shopping mall, a tacky sculpture, and mini mound does not convey the vast wisdom the land carries. The epistemology of the colonial mindset is limited and negligent. Unlearning the language of conquest, which is in quotes, poignant phrasing to observe in the journey of research. It's because it was a cited source. The exclusivity of interpretive design has been the dominantly presented narrative. Retribution and undoing the wrongs, reconciliation. Acknowledgement and awareness is one step. Now is the time more than ever. It is the best time to take action. I say how happy I am to be alive today, and I truly must say, in seeing more efforts of collaboration, strategic approaches to respectful reciprocal delegation, of consultation and mitigation over destruction and eradication. My mother, Anne-Marie Sayers, says, "Today is the best day to be alive as a California native since contact." And I offer this to you because as a queer, brown, female, not so able-bodied, chronic pain, neurodivergent, not properly diagnosed through Western settler colonial lens individual, that even in some of these other circles that are inclusive, I still feel excluded. And I recognize we are in the Anthropocene. We're studying ourselves. We're studying the earth. And we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to be recognizing all the beautiful things that we do have as easily as we can fall down that oppression Olympics conversation. So when I get caught up, I remember all the privileges I do have. Being able to walk into a brown queer space without getting side-eye by comparison to my native relative who comes from a territory where her skin is fairer, even though she has more supposed indigenous genetic ties. It's a crazy world we live in. And to me, it's important that we honor truth in history, how we got to where we are. So when you do think about land acknowledgements, also think about the historic acknowledgements. What happened? What got us to be where we are here today? When it came to this building, when it came to these organizations coming together, when it came to you getting the opportunity, maybe today off, or access maybe your job's paying and helping you get here. What did it take to get us all here today? Because it's beautiful that we get this opportunity to be together or for this message to be shared. So I just wanted to offer this culture sharing opportunity because to me, when song, ceremony, and dancing stops, so does the earth. And it's not always the really serious ceremonies that should be acknowledged. Because when it comes to opportunities when people invite me to spaces to share song and share ceremony, I can't commodify my own community's spirituality. I can't take a sunrise ceremony and sing it to you now that it's lunchtime. There are recordings that exist, and there are ceremonial songs that my community have shared with me that I don't have the rights to share in this space, even though they might be beautiful songs. And some of us may hear songs in our journey and we want to share them, but if we don't know their origin story, are we respecting that tradition and that practice? And so when I tell my friends, hey, when we honored the traditional songs that we've been taught, what do you think that traditional song was when it was first given that breath of life? What was that song before it was called a traditional song? That was a song of community, of that individual who dreamed it, the circle who brought it to life, who gave that breath of life, and that became the practice. That became that ritual. That became that tradition. So what rituals, what ceremonies, what practices are we conjuring and manifesting today in a good way for our young ones and next generations to honor tradition, to honor practices? These are unique protocols and practices that we bring into our life. And we all can be in ceremony at different times, from as simple as expressions of gratitude, thankfulness. I might not celebrate Turkey Day, I celebrate harvest. And before meals, I offer that gratitude and thankfulness that I am alive another day and all that it took to get that abundance for me to enjoy. My mother taught me when I'm harvesting to offer something back. Maybe it's my hair so it can go to the bird's nest, maybe if it's a song, or even, is it dioxide or monoxide that comes from our mouth when we're breathing? Thank you. Dioxide, offering it to the plant because they're filtering it, or plants, maybe I have compost, or sometimes I have a tobacco pouch. Honor the life that's lived and the gift that's given. Be appreciative and thankful, and pay attention to that system where you're harvesting from, and don't take too much. Is a practice, is a ritual, is a ceremony. We can do that with our foods, we can do that with our medicines, we could do that with our interactions between other animals and beings, because technically all the elders that I've continued to encounter will say the plants and the animals, they came first. They are the first people. We as humans came next, and we're given the responsibility to be good ancestors in training, and hence the reason why we acknowledge Indigenous First Nations people. And that's just a beautiful history of the timeline of existence of how people have been present in these areas. And so I want to leave you in a good way. I'm going to be racing to Cabrillo College to Awaswas territory to offer a land acknowledgement and opportunity of inclusion. Did you know that they do not have any Native Americans on faculty? They lost their last faculty that was Indigenous, Stan Rushworth. The irony, Stan Rushworth wrote a book. I'm chapter 15, and I wrote about cultural competency. And I'm blessed to be around amazing badasses in that book. So every single chapter is a different story from community, and I'm just one of many. And he rage quit because their lack of inclusion, their lack of solidarity with Indigenous nations, which is messed up. So I have a lot of work going over there. So I will leave you on a call and response, because song sharing, language sharing is so very important. And fun factoid for all you, anybody who is a little nerdy out there, the live long and prosper hand gesture. Live long and prosper, fun factoid. The individual who helped develop and cultivate the Klingon and Vulcan language, his name is Mark Okrin. When he heard an alien language on TV when Star Trek was playing, he reached out to the director and said, hey, I can actually help make your language functioning. I got my PhD in California languages, PhD in Mutsun, Ohlone language. He went to UCSC and UC Berkeley, and he got his PhD in my ancestral language. And he went forward, yes, his own intellectual property rights. However, if you look at Indigenous languages, how they function, he was leaning to a very strong core from an engineering standpoint, from a protocol and flowchart standpoint. Like, let's do a little bit more acknowledgement. Let's make it more awareness, because there are thousands of people speaking Vulcan and Klingon language, probably only a couple digits, tops 3 digits, of people trying to speak my ancestral home language. And people like to say, your language is dead. Language matters. Many California languages are dormant. There are in excess of 200 language dialects in California. California is the most linguistically dense territory this side of the northern hemisphere. And many people don't even know that California natives exist. Oh, you're native? Are you Maori? Or are you Samoan? I'm sitting here like, not even of the Americas. One person said, oh my gosh, that's so exotic. Oosa. So, in a form of combating that, and I will use my anger and frustration in a positive way, we're going to do a call and respond in my native language. So, for those of you, well, I want to point out, when songs, dancing, and ceremonies stop, so does the earth. All of our nations did that. Like, let's just do a quick Om real quick. 3, 2, 1. Om. Look how much you harmonized like that. We all became on that wavelength. We all aligned. That is part of how many of our nations have had ceremony and song sharing. All nations have this. Many religions, many doctrines, many dogmas. So song sharing is beautiful. So I want to share these words with you. So I'll say it and then you can say it. So, Pire kanama, si compatian, he too canoso, soto canoso. And I am going to share a language of another colonial tongue, and it's a beautiful romantic language. Tierra mi cuerpo, agua mi sangre, aire mi el viento, fuego mi espíritu. And now we'll do the English colonial tongue. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and air my breath, fire my spirit. Did you know that now you're multilingual? At least in a few sentences. Being multilingual is an indigenous life way, at least here in California. You just learned Mutsun language, you just sang in Spanish, and you just acknowledged English. 2 colonial tongues that I utilize and I survive with to help convey messages with you today. However, reconnecting to my language has been something where I recognize why my brain thinks the way it does. And so through that, I want to remind you that no matter where you are, you can honor native land. And even when we run into walls when it comes to learning some of our roots and some of our heritage, you can always honor your indigeneity even when you don't know all of your ancestors. Because it comes through our lines, our bloodlines, our memories, our dreams. We can celebrate that by being good community members, being in community together, and respecting the earth and sacred living systems. So my final thought is, I invite you to be good ancestors in training, continue being your amazing selves, and I'm so grateful and appreciative that you shared your time with me, you shared your voices with me, and I got to be present with you. I am going to be running away, so I am CEO of Kanyon Consulting, LLC, which is Kanyon with a K, consulting with a K, .com, and Indian Canyon Nation. So coastanoan.org is my website, and Finn and some of the organizers may have my contact. I thoroughly consent of my websites and other content to be shared. I make educational material around these topics of land acknowledgements, inclusive verbiage, cultural sensitivity, cultural competency, all that promo stuff. I like to be in community, so I hope I get a chance to witness community faces out there in the world, because I'm glad we are here today, and I'm glad to be here today. Oh.